It's really interesting to me how compelling the writing and storytelling is in Fallout 4's Far Harbor expansion, especially considering the next thing BGS made was Starfield. The drop off in quality is quite astonishing. They also made Fallout 76, but let's just pretend it doesn't exist. The story is presented as a mystery for you to solve as a detective set on an irradiated island covered in an almost mystical fog where danger lurks around every corner. If that doesn't sound compelling to you, I don't know what would. Far Harbor's three main factions, the focus of this video, are Far Harbor itself, a town of fishermen and fisherwomen just trying to survive in their home, Acadia, a synth refuge led by an escaped Institute prototype, and the religious organisation, or cult, known as the Children of Atom, who worship radiation and the atom bomb. Your task is to resolve the conflict between the three groups so that you can send a lost girl back home to her parents.
Mainlander, today's your lucky day. Free beer for ya! Ha ha! So, drink up! You stay here over long and the fog will claim you. Might as well meet her with a belly full of fire, eh?
The people of Far Harbor are just regular old humans that have been living on the island for generations, somehow surviving the radioactive fog and dangerous mutated creatures that dwell within it. However, the radioactive fog has been getting worse, forcing most of them to live on a small dock right at the edge of the island. The Mariner is the owner of this dock.
But she wouldn't be standing at all if it weren't for you. They call me the Mariner, shipwright, handyman, and the only one keeping the harbor afloat. Well, beside Captain Avery. Why doesn't anyone help you? Each harborman is the captain of his own ship. Worked fine for generations on the homesteads. Your land, your rules. But when the island pushed them onto my dock, one by one, the ungrateful bastards expect me to look after my land, even though they're squatting on it, like wretches.
What's the fog?
Where to begin? The fog's radioactive, right? But there are pockets of it, the deep fog, that are hard fallout. And as deadly as that is, that's only part of the problem. Things live in the fog, thrive. You think what attacked the harbor's bad? Oh, there's far worse further inland.
The people in Far Harbor are incredibly stubborn and resistant to help because they don't want to believe they need help in order to survive.
The Mainlander. Great. You helped us on Mariner's hull, but we didn't need it. This is our island, our fight, not yours.
Hey, buddy. I was just trying to help.
Charity makes you weak. Makes you need it more and more. Until you're starving from the lack of it. What happens next time when you ain't here, huh? Or the next? Either us harbormen survive on our own terms, or we take the long walk together.
The people there will refer to the sole survivor as a mainlander, and they use it as an insult, not as a term of endearment. This doesn't make them bad people. Suspicion of strangers is certainly healthy in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, and they eventually are appreciative of the player's help if you choose to do side quests for them.
We have mainlanders coming in and out all the time. Worst of the lot are thieves or murderers. And the others we find floating face down in the harbor. But not you.
You can win their respect by completing the captain's dance, not something you should have to do. Helping them should be enough to earn their respect, but the harbormen are stubborn, and this tradition means something to them. This is called character development. Incredible stuff.
Mainlanders have been responsible for all manner of harm, but this one is special. This one did the captain's dance.
It's true. I saw it.
So in my book, she's not a mainlander anymore. She's one of us!
Yeah! Mainlander! Ha ha!
Captain Avery is the town's leader, or at least the person that seems to have the most influence over the people that live there. Avery says the fog has been on the island forever, and it has been as bad as this before. The last time the fog was this bad, it improved again over time, so it just seems to be a natural give and take event caused by radiation. The children of Atom, however, claim to be responsible for the fog. They call it the power of Atom.
Alright, I'm listening. Tell me about Adam.
Tell you. Look around. You stride through his kingdom. A land blanketed beneath sacred fog. A land Adam has claimed for his children.
When I was a young lad, no higher than your knee, whole island was covered in fog. The fog eventually rolled back. People resettled, but they got comfortable. Started taking things for granted. Folk got short memories. All this has happened before.
There is no real evidence to suggest anything the children are doing is directly responsible. It is most likely just, as I've said, a natural phenomenon caused by radiation. The children of Atom, however, believe it's their faith and worship that makes the fog stronger.
I'm done cowering behind your damn hull, Avery. Time you let me deal with the real problem. With the right people and my guns, I can end those Children of Atom cultists for good.
The fog's been here forever. The children didn't make it.
Before the Rat Eaters came, the fog was under control. They come, and it all goes wrong. It's time we do something.
No need to burden the stranger with all this nonsense.
Have the children made the fog worse?
Absolutely not. There's not one bit of evidence.
Geiger counters don't lie, Avery. The fog's gotten more lethal year over year. And now the fog's covering the whole island. But only after the children came.
You know as well as I do that's happened before. Sure, people have theories the children are involved, but no one, and I mean no one, has proof.
Alan Lee, a resident and weapons trader that lives there, once pulled a gun on and killed one of the Atom preachers. The preacher, however, was non-violent, just annoying. The preacher, called Brother Andrews, came to Far Harbor to tell them that their friends and family had been sacrificed to the fog and they should accept their fate. Was killing Brother Andrews warranted? Probably not, he was just preaching, but in the world of Fallout, it does seem less extreme of a punishment, especially when the preacher was indirectly threatening them.
We used to have a peace with them until a certain hothead menace named Alan Lee.
Now that's enough. That preacher came into the harbor saying that it was Adam's will that we lost our land. That it was Adam's goddamn will that we lost so many friends and family. And that the Atom would wipe this whole place clean of us.
If it were up to me, you'd hang for what you did to that preacher, Alan.
What did he do to the preacher?
Alan pulled a gun on him. He claims the preacher reached for his.
Alan claims the fog started getting worse when the children arrived on the island, but that could very well be a coincidence. Alan wants to kill the children of Atom. To be fair to Alan, even if the children aren't making the fog worse, they probably would if they could.
The vessel is breathtaking, is it not? A machine dedicated to spreading Atom's glow.
So Alan isn't completely wrong in wanting to end the children to protect the people of Far Harbor. Cassie Dalton thinks the island is alive, which leans more towards the fog just being a natural phenomenon. She thinks it's some kind of power that wants to get revenge on her family. In reality, she's just linking her family's deaths to the island, which, considering how dangerous it is to live there, it's not surprising an entire family was wiped out.
You think the island is alive? You're completely crazy.
Oh, you think that now, but by the time you've heard my tale, you might not be so sure.
You know, when I first climbed this mountain above the fog, I thought to myself, now here is a metaphor worth taking in.
Acadia is a synth refuge meant to protect synths from both the railroad and the Institute by giving them a safe place to live, protected from the Institute's courses, trying to bring them back to the Institute. In case you don't know, the Institute is a group of scientists that created synths. However, they treat them as slaves, despite synths being almost indistinguishable from humans. This also prevents them from having to go to the Railroad for help, a group of people that work to break synths out of the Institute, only for the Railroad to essentially kill them by mind-wiping them, removing their memories, and turning them into a completely different person. To an extent, it also protects them from the humans of the Commonwealth and Far Harbor that hate synths or are afraid of them, therefore prejudiced and hostile towards them. People like Alan Lee, for example.
I assume you're not planning on staying long.
Is there a problem with my being here?
Maybe. Maybe not. Acadia is only as secure as we make it. We take unnecessary risks, we get careless, and things can go bad. Fast. If there's a synth who needs a safe place, then we take them in. Let them live as a synth, without fear. You don't fit that description. That makes you an unnecessary risk. It's nothing personal. Minimizing our contact with outsiders is just practical.
Acadia is a place worthy of protection, providing synths with safety and freedom. Acadia also built the fog condensers that saved Far Harbor and continue to prevent it from being overrun by fog and dangerous creatures.
Can you tell me about Acadia?
Strange folk like there. Call themselves synths. Seems to me they just want to be left alone, to live their life in peace. They've done some good turns for us islanders. The fog condensers, most especially. Wouldn't even be a Far Harbor left without those.
The condensers suck up the fog and turn it into liquid, expelling the liquid onto the ground.
What's a fog condenser?
The condensers? They're a tricky bit of science. They keep the fog away. Powered by the wind farm, the synth fellows got up and running. Us islanders don't particularly like being obligated to them. But there you have it.
DiMA is the leader of Acadia. He is one of two prototype synths that escaped the Institute many years ago. He then fled to Far Harbor and created Acadia with his associates Faraday and Chase. The other synth that escaped with him was Nick Valentine. DiMA's personality is based on life experience. Nick was given a personality based on a pre-war detective, and his memories were lost when he escaped the Institute. DiMA welcomes anyone to Acadia as long as they are not aggressive towards synths. However, I would imagine only people that are, or at least believe they are synths, can actually live there.
You've entered a place of clarity, understanding, peace. While you're here in Acadia, Synthkind welcomes you as long as you welcome us.
Acadia is where our runaway girl, named Kasumi, has fled to. She lived with her parents in the Commonwealth, where she fixed an old radio that allowed her to communicate with DiMA. DiMA then convinces Kasumi that she's a synth, and she believes that the original Kasumi her parents conceived and gave birth to was killed by the Institute and replaced by a synth, which is who she now is. She fled to Acadia for protection, and to learn more about it and the synths that live there.
Project log? Myself. I never really thought about who or what I am, but... God. Where do I start? The radio. I was right about the range. I managed to get a signal, a strong signal, from up north. There's a group of people up there. They say they're all synths. Synthetic people. Made by the Institute. They are trying to build a place for their kind, where they can be themselves and be accepted for what they are alongside human beings. It sounds wonderful, but then they started asking about me, and some questions came up. Questions I don't have answers to. I mean, I've always felt off, like I'm not really supposed to be here, but then there are things in my childhood I can't remember, and I've been having strange dreams. I'm going to go. To meet these synths, I have to know the truth about myself. They've told me to sail up north to a town called Far Harbor. I can make my way to them from there.
There is an argument to be made that DiMA gaslit Kasumi into thinking she is a synth when actually she isn't. It's well known that in Fallout 4 there is no accurate way to tell if someone is or isn't a synth. The only people that know for sure are the Institute, because they have a list of the synths that they have created. But you can't just go and ask them if you think you might be a synth, because if you are a synth, they will capture you, reset your memories, and make you their slave. Not ideal. If you murder Kasumi, she doesn't drop a synth component, which may indicate she is not a synth, but throughout Fallout 4, the whole component thing is unreliable, so it's not really clear evidence because there are multiple people in the main game that should be synths, like Glory in the Railroad, and Roger Warwick, who has a whole quest line regarding the Institute about him being a synth, that don't drop the component. It should be said though that Brooks and the other synths in Arcadia drop synth components, which shows Bethesda did think about it, unless that was added by the unofficial patch mod I have. I'm not sure on that. Either way, I don't think it's conclusive evidence that she's not a synth, but it's likely that she isn't. DiMA questions the player character as to whether they think they are a synth. His basis for this theory is that the player's most recent memory is the prologue of the game, where you are with your family before the bombs drop. Honestly, I roll my eyes at this question every time I hear it when I play through this DLC, because it's a video game. I don't know my character's whole life. What game starts with you being born? Am I right? Right?
Look at you. Look at you. Hi there. I'm your daddy, little guy.
He thinks the fact that the sole survivor only remembers one thing from before the bombs drop could imply that the memory was implanted by the Institute.
No memories before then? Just a single day and then waking up alone? We so easily accept what's presented to us as the truth, don't we?
To be fair, the Institute and the player character, Sole Survivor, are undoubtedly linked, and it's certainly possible that they were replaced while in cryogenic stasis. However, there isn't any hard evidence of this happening, or any evidence at all, really. You would think there would be some kind of evidence when you infiltrate the Institute in the main story of the game, if that was the case. I don't think the Sole Survivor is a synth, and even if they are, what does it matter? They are still who they are, they will continue to live their life regardless. DiMA seems to have a tendency to try and convince people that they could be a synth, which is strange and honestly not a nice thing to do to someone, making them question their whole existence. Some people may be grateful for this, like Kasumi, some will hate DiMA for it, and it's a difficult and interesting issue. I really don't like the dialogue choices we have to answer this question, which stresses how terrible Fallout 4's dialogue system is compared to Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I want to tell DiMA that I simply don't care if I'm a synth, because it makes no difference to me. DiMA believes he is protecting synths from the Institute, which is why he wanted Kasumi to come to Arcadia. He believes that if she is one, she will be safer there than in the Commonwealth, and there is some truth to that. However, Kasumi leaves without telling her parents, because DiMA tells her she will be safer if she doesn't tell them, which in my opinion is very, very wrong.
Until she made contact with some kidnapper who lured her away from us.
Or maybe she left on her own. She's not a child anymore. Our daughter is 19. She knows how to survive, and she's capable. I think maybe she left because she wanted her own life.
No, she would have told us where she was going. She would have said something.
He should not have done that, and Kasumi should not have taken that advice. Kasumi's parents clearly care for her, and just cutting them off is cruel and will only hurt them and Kasumi. If Kasumi believes she is a synth and in danger of being captured by the Institute, by all means, go to Acadia, but cutting off her parents is a step too far, in my opinion. DiMA claims he doesn't want to expand his operation, he simply wants to protect the synths he already has, but that is not completely true. He sort of recruited Kasumi. It could be said that Kasumi reached out to him by fixing the radio. DiMA isn't sending people to the Commonwealth to recruit synths, as far as we know, so there is some truth to what he said, but he also doesn't say they will never expand, just that he is content with the way things are for now.
Tell me more about this place, Acadia.
All I want is to bring as many synths here as I can, and give them a chance to know what they really are. To embrace it. Beyond that, we just want to live in peace. I don't have any grand plans for expansion. Just existing as we are now is enough.
Kasumi says she has dreams of waking up in a lab, which is not particularly compelling evidence that she is a synth. Dreams are not a great reason for making life-changing decisions, in my opinion. Even if she is a synth, her parents are still her parents as far as they are concerned, and they still very much care for her. Without clear and unavoidable evidence that she is a synth, her decision to leave them is very silly, especially not even telling them.
Listen, do you have any proof that you're actually a synth?
Little things. Dreams of waking up in a lab. Years I can't remember from when I was a kid. Not to mention how I never quite fit in back at home.
Kasumi and her family were fighting, and she just lost her grandfather, who she was very close to, so she may have just wanted to get away, and Arcadia was an excuse to do that. Kasumi is also very interested in technology, and spends a lot of time learning how to tinker with and build devices, such as radios and toasters, so she clearly has an affinity for tech, and would potentially be more likely to be interested in being a synth than the average person, and is someone who would very much be interested in the prospect of a settlement full of synths. She wants to help solve a problem she discovers in Acadia. Completing this will allow you to convince her to return to her parents, so she is not completely silly. She wants to help the people of Far Harbor and the synths of Acadia before she leaves, which is admirable.
Kasumi, I think you're just confused. Everyone has doubts about who they are sometimes. That's part of life.
I really wish that was true. If I wasn't a synth, things would be so much simpler. Acadia isn't what I thought it was. There's more going on here than just the refuge. But I can't leave until I've gotten to the bottom of it. I've been running long enough.
The issues are that she believes DiMA is hiding things from Acadia, notes relating to nuclear codes and the spread of the fog. We of course learned that he is indeed hiding things, and we find out his believed justifications for doing so. Just like Far Harbor, some of the synths of Acadia are wary of outsiders, which to be honest is valid. There's a lot of hatred for synths in the Commonwealth and in Far Harbor, so someone travelling from there to Acadia should be treated with suspicion for the safety of the people that live in Acadia. The happiness of the synths that live there is a mixed bag. Most of them are there because they have to be to survive, but they complain a lot about being bored. They are free to leave if they want, and in the world of Fallout I think it's probably better to be bored and safe than entertained and in constant danger.
When I first escaped, I had no idea what to do with myself. I was so lost, so scared. But I heard rumors of Chase and what she was doing, that she was bringing people to a safe place. A place just for us. And now here I am, for all it's worth.
So now you're here. What comes next?
I don't know. I really don't. I've just gotta keep telling myself I'm better off here than dead.
Cole would have died without Chase, one of the leaders of Acadia.
Honestly, I'd be dead right now if it weren't for Chase. Turns out it's pretty hard to live as a synth in the Commonwealth.
Do you think you're better off now that you're here?
Oh, absolutely. I don't have to pretend, I don't have to lie, and I don't worry that someone's gonna kill me in my sleep. Or worse.
So there are some stories of synths that have genuinely been helped by DiMA and Acadia. I really like Cog. Cog has his head screwed on right.
Not that anyone's asking, but I'll tell you. It all gets easier to deal with when you realize none of it matters. What you are, where you came from, let go of all that, and life gets simple.
Yeah, I hear you.
Is that so? Huh. Most of the chumps here act like I'm out of my gourd. Good to know someone else sees it my way.
Jewel is the exception to this rule. She has actually been abused by Faraday, one of the leaders of Acadia. When we meet her, she is recovering from a botched mind wipe that gave her the brain scramblies, and the quest Faraday sends you on to collect storage drives involves her.
You try having somebody botch a mind wipe on you and see how it feels. Then get back to me, okay?
You see, there's various levels of overhypnosis. If it's not too serious, it's what's called weak brain. If it's slightly worrying, it's called thoughtless sallies. And if it's a fucking nightmare and you can forget about him, it's brain scramblies.
Cog asks you to help out with this. Did I mention I like Cog? Turns out Jules used to be a different person called Victoria. Victoria was mind-wiped by Faraday without her consent after a boating accident that left her damaged. Jules is the result of that mind wipe. You can confront Faraday about this. He claims he did it to help with her trauma after the boat crash. They never outright say it, but I assume they did this to save her life or prevent her from living with the trauma resulting from the boat crash.
Can you just tell me what happened?
The boat crashed. She was beyond injured. We did what we could, but the only way to get her past the trauma was to try a wipe. I don't have Institute-level technology here. There were complications, and now... well, now she's Jewel. She's broken, but she's alive.
I don't know if she was in any condition to give consent after the crash, which makes this quest really annoying. If Victoria was so affected by the crash that she couldn't speak or was so severely brain damaged that she couldn't realistically give consent, then things change, right? Also, if she could communicate, did they ask her if they could mind wipe her, and did she say no? The only thing we know is it was without consent, which sounds bad. But if she wasn't able to consent due to damage, then maybe they should have just let Victoria die instead of mind wiping her and making her a completely new person, which is essentially the same thing as Victoria dying. In the end, they made the choice out of empathy for their friend, rightly or wrongly. I don't think this is evidence that Faraday is necessarily a bad person, and I also don't think he's intent on mind-wiping more synths, but this was a questionable decision. If you tell Jules the truth, which I think is the right thing to do, she claims she always knew something was up, and understandably gets upset about it. She decides she is going to leave and gives you all of her things. Hopefully she finds somewhere else she can call home and build a new life as Jules. I fear, however, she has just given up on life and is walking out into the wasteland to die.
Jewel, you would have died if Faraday hadn't saved your life. But in order to do that, they had to wipe your mind.
What? You know, on some level, I fucking knew it. I knew that these people who call themselves my friends tell me they want to help. They did this to me. And who the hell gives them the right to decide that I don't get to be me anymore? I didn't ask for this. I didn't want any of this. God, this place is no different than any other. You just get screwed no matter what. Well, I'm done. I quit! You can have my stuff. Doesn't mean shit to me anymore. There's a chest down in the basement, and this'll open it. I'm out of here.
Goes to show how messed up it is that the Railroad mind wipes synths. This is why the Minutemen are better for the Commonwealth than the Railroad. I happen to have a whole video about that. You should check it out.
After years of skulking in the shadows like whipped dogs, our purpose is clear. And I know the key to our victory lies within the nucleus itself. We will claim the secrets hidden away by that accursed robot, and with them, we will wipe Far Harbor from the island. Adam's Veil will roll down its streets, holy fog cleansing the land of their heresy. And when we are finally granted division, it will be as heroes. A new day dawns, brothers and sisters. Glory to Atom! Glory to Atom!
The Children of Atom are a religious group, or cult as I like to call them, seen in multiple Fallout games. This group in Far Harbor are well organised and have quite a few members. Their ideology is based on the worship of radiation. They believe a god called Atom controls the fog on the island, and they believe the fog is Atom's holy glow. They dislike Far Harbor for using the fog condensers, which is seen as sacrilegious.
What's your problem with Far Harbor?
Those heathens persecute our missionaries and use profane technology to steal land that rightfully belongs to Atom. Not sure which sin is worse. And I want you to assure me you're not here to do their bidding.
What profane technology are you talking about?
Acadia's little lifeline to that den of sin. The fog condensers. The only reason they're able to hang on to that blasted dock.
To be able to join the Children of Atom and gain access to their base called the Nucleus, you have to complete a dangerous ritual to prove yourself worthy. This one is right out of the How to Start a Cult handbook.
I'm interested in joining. Sign me up.
Decisions of who may enter our family we leave to Atom. You'll have to perform a ritual. Prove yourself worthy in his eyes.
Mitch in Far Harbor and Old Longfellow say that the fog can make you crazy. It's interesting then that the Children of Atom spend so much time in the fog. It could explain why they are so unique.
The fog will get you!
Some of the children are born resistant to radiation, but not all of them. More on that later. DiMA says the original Children of Atom only ended up at the Nucleus because the people of Far Harbor kicked them out of town, so you can understand why they'd harbour, pun intended, bad feelings towards Far Harbor and its people.
I was using a submarine base as a home when Martin and his followers stumbled inside. They had been cast out of Far Harbor for their beliefs. When I left to found Acadia, I knew the base would be in safe hands. They needed a home, a place to belong, just like I did.
The ritual they have you do involves drinking from an irradiated spring. This is followed by what the game says is a ghostly figure, leading you to an irradiated site where you find a totem called the Mother that is apparently sacred to the Children of Atom.
I drank from your murder spring and followed the woman, and all I got was this weird statue. I think you owe me.
A woman? Led you to that icon? What woman? What did you see?
Is there something special about this thing?
I think it may be a message from someone very important. So I need you to tell me what you saw.
It's my opinion that the irradiated water warps your mind and makes you hallucinate. One of the children takes advantage of this by seeing you drink, then leads you to the statue. Why they would choose the sole survivor for this, I don't know. An argument could be made that there are some mystical fantasy aspects to Fallout's world, but most of the abnormality can be explained by how the franchise handles radiation and its effects. The purpose of this mission is to give the sole survivor a reason to decide they should become a child of Atom, as they could believe that they are chosen as some kind of divine messenger. I think it's all cult bullshit, caused by hallucinations, and the children's brains being warped by the fog. A Child of Atom soldier called Richter admits some people in the Children of Atom think the Mother is just some old hermit. I think that this old hermit is the woman that leads you to the Mother statue. That would explain what happened, and I think it's the most reasonable explanation.
Atom above. You really did see her. The Mother of the Fog.
Was the Mother real?
Most people believe she's some sort of spirit, a creature of the wilds, though a few claim she's just an old hermit.
The Children of Atom don't expect you to even survive the ritual, which is more evidence they are morally abhorrent. One of the children straight up tells you the point is to kill off those deemed unworthy.
You must be the one Richter sent out to the spring. Don't appear you turned into a slobbering goon. So I'm guessing you had a favorable experience. What visions did Holy Atom bless you with?
Slobbering goon? Do people have bad reactions to the spring?
Few make it through the ritual intact. sort of the point.
Alan Lee from Far Harbor, who we mentioned earlier, killed one of their preachers when they came to Far Harbor to preach Atom's message. This gives the children their only legitimate reason to want to start a war with Far Harbor, but let's be real, they would hate Far Harbor and want to get rid of them either way, especially under their current leader, High Confessor Tectus. Chase in Acadia says that High Confessor Tectus is insane.
I even gave them their headquarters, the submarine base they named the Nucleus.
Which was a mistake, because Martin is gone and the new confessor, Tectus, is completely insane.
He's been threatening us, to force us to choose a side.
The introduction to the Children of Atom, a scene plays out in which one child murders another to prove their dedication to the cause. These people are evil.
Please, you can't do this. We've
It's
been
Grand
loyal.
Zealot to you, and your dedication has come into doubt. You need to prove your faith. One of you may return to the fold. The other will return to Adam.
Richter, this is insane. You can't expect us to...
DiMA says he shouldn't judge them for their beliefs, which is admirable, but it's really a stretch when their beliefs are directly against the safety of the people of Far Harbor.
The children of Adam on this island. You were helping them?
Yes. I know their faith in radiation as a type of god is a bit different, but who am I to judge?
The Children of Atom are a cult that worship radiation. They are not reasonable people. War between them and Far Harbor feels inevitable. The two can't coexist peacefully unless the High Confessor suddenly has a change of heart. More on that later. One of the sisters lost their mind and they are confused as to why. Could it be the radiation sickness, perhaps?
I must have angered Adam as well as he afflicted me with this.
The previous leader of the Children of Atom, called Martin, who since fled the island, was a far more reasonable person and wanted to maintain peace between the children and Far Harbor. If he was still the leader, I wouldn't have as much of an issue with the children. I would still want to try and free some of its members from the cult because I think it's harmful, but it would be harder to rationalize murdering them all if they were peaceful and less extreme under the leadership of Martin. The current leader, High Confessor Tectus, who is much more extremist, believes Confessor Martin was wrong to seek peace with Far Harbor, as while they talked, Far Harbor could bolster their defenses. I really don't think Far Harbor bolstering their defenses is a sign they were planning on starting a war with the children. Tectus just wants it to be easier for the children to destroy Far Harbor when the time comes.
For years, my predecessor begged for peace, while Far Harbor fortified their bastion of heresy. We tried to help them, to bring them Adam's light. Many of our brethren ended up dying for it. But now that I am High Confessor, that time is over. All Adam's foes, whether Far Harbor cowering behind their precious condensers, or that ancient robot hiding away his memories within our very home, they will come to recognize Adam as the sole master of this island.
Tectus says that Martin did not respond to Far Harbor's execution of Brother Andrews, and I understand wanting revenge or at least some kind of justice for this specific crime. And that justice should have been Far Harbor expelling Alan Lee, the one who murdered Brother Andrews. However, Alan Lee has sympathizers within Far Harbor, so that wouldn't have gone down well with some of the Far Harbor residents.
What happened to this missionary?
A foul atrocity. Our good brother Andrews had decided to brave the fog and attempt to bring Adam's light to that ghastly town, and remind the heathens of their trespasses. From what I hear, he'd barely spoken a word before they cut him down in cold blood, for nothing more than his devotion. Beasts.
We don't have police, or really any law, just custom and popular sentiment. And after everything the preacher said, it was abundantly clear doing anything to Alan would have made matters worse.
Tectus claims responsibility for the fog.
I heard the children are responsible for the fog. Is that true?
Of course. The fog predates our arrival on the island, certainly. But before us, it was but an occasional presence. Yet through our faith, our devotion to family, Adam saw fit to reach across the land, claiming for us more, year after year, until near all lay beneath his grasp.
I don't think their faith has spread the fog at all, but maybe they are doing some more practical things, such as destroying fog condensers. There is no complete, hard, solid evidence that the children are doing this. We only have Alan Lee claiming that another NPC, Machete Mike, saw one of the children messing with a condenser.
If we kill any more of the children of Adam, there could be war, Alan.
Those
Just
tools you
stop
found are a
this.
joy to work
This ain't some innocent, Avery. This is a damn saboteur. Those condensers down by the freshwater. The storm didn't take them out. She did. Machete Mike spotted her.
But the children...
It's like I've been saying. The children of Adam are out to kill us all. This here saboteur meant to cut us off from food and water. Punishment is pretty clear, Captain.
Do what you must.
Yeah! Children bastards!
You were right, Alan.
Now will you listen to sense? The children of Adam need to be wiped clean off this island.
You've had your blood today. I can't stomach any more of it. All of you. Show's over. Go home.
We already know that Alan Lee absolutely hates the children of Atom, so he is certainly biased towards wanting an excuse to go and destroy them all. So he's not exactly the most reliable person to be passing this information on to the sole survivor. We don't even know for sure that this Machete Mike person is telling the truth, because we don't get to see any of the children of Atom breaking fog condensers for ourselves. However, when you consider that the children want the fog to claim Far Harbor, it does line up with their goals, and it's really not hard to believe that Machete Mike could be being truthful. After this scene, Mike seems to just vanish from the game. I tried using console commands to teleport myself to him and him to me, but the game wouldn't recognize his reference ID. The only interaction you can have with Machete Mike is him trying to buy the tools from you that the Mariner needs to fix the hull, which is a dick move for sure, but he doesn't threaten you and he offers you a fair price. I don't think we can judge Machete Mike's trustworthiness from this one interaction. We don't have any evidence to suggest Machete Mike himself has an ulterior motive, but Alan Lee definitely has bias.
With the shape of the world right now, tools like this are useful.
Exactly. You got it. Wait. Oh, Mariner sent you, didn't she? Goddamn Mitch and his big mouth. No matter what she's offering, it's nothing. Serious builders would give an arm for them tools. I'll pay you 2,000 caps right here, right now. Deal?
This execution is not complete proof that the children are actively harming Far Harbor, but like I said, it lines up with their ideals. They are a direct threat to Far Harbor, and it's possible they are messing with the condensers. If you see Tectus after this event, he says it's all the more reason for the children to further Far Harbor's demise. At this point, it really feels like war between them is inevitable.
Far Harbor claims another of our brethren. Their demise cannot come soon enough. But, I'm sorry, you needed something.
These people may be odd, and their faith is certainly misplaced, but that doesn't mean some of the children of Atom don't deserve empathy. Some of the people that live in the nucleus are innocent people that just want to worship Atom, which in itself, if they're just worshipping radiation, is not harmful. When it becomes harmful is when they start trying to spread the radiation. That's when it becomes an issue. Some of the children are born with resistance to radiation. They claim this is Atom's doing, but most likely it's just a natural development after generations of living in a post-apocalyptic world covered in radiation.
Look, me and Devin, we weren't born with Atom's blessing like everyone else around here. Rads, they hurt us.
One quest involves fixing a decontamination device that is meant to remove radiation that now spits out irradiated fluid for, as the children call it, a quick dose of Atom's glow. You can, however, decide to make it work as originally intended in a way that is imperceptible to the children, which means they think they're being irradiated, but actually the machine will be removing radiation, which will be good to prevent radiation sickness for those in the Children of Atom that are not resistant to it. Richter says that division, which is a whole thing, is the ultimate goal for the Children of Atom. His explanation of what division means is complete nonsense. It's word salad with no meaning. So to try and explain it in a way that makes sense, they believe that atoms are universes, and that by splitting atoms via nuclear fission, new universes are created. Nuclear bombs use nuclear fission to create an explosion, and the Children of Atom happen to have access to a nuclear warhead in their base, except they don't have the key required to launch it.
What's division?
Release. Release of your potential. Of all the worlds locked away inside you, broken apart and reborn 1,000 times over through the glow. Island's the perfect place for it. Thanks to the fog, the nucleus. Glow everywhere. With patience, we'll all find division in this place.
The key to division, yes. Reunion with Atom at the flick of a wrist. An object of true power. Lost to the ages, unfortunately.
This is an easy out for anyone wanting to wipe out the children. You can justify it by saying you are just giving them what they want, but I feel many of the children are victims of the High Confessor, and there is always the possibility some of these people will one day lose faith and choose to walk away from the children. If you don't believe in division yourself, using it as an excuse to murder them is just murder. It's not division, it's murder. If you do believe in the children, or want to roleplay as someone who does, then maybe you would grant yourself and the children division, and end your playthrough once you've done it. That's the only way I can justify doing it. An NPC in the cult called Ware talks about using anti-rad meds, so clearly not all of the children are rushing towards division. Ware in particular only joined for a safe place to live and 3 meals a day. In return, he protects the children as a guard. This is not a person that deserves to be killed. He's just trying to survive, and this is the best way for him to do that.
You mentioned before you're affected by radiation. Why would you choose to live in a place like this?
Sure beats where I came from. Before joining the family, I was a trapper. Lived with a nasty bunch out in the fog. Barely scraping by. Kind of place you slept with a knife under your pillow to make sure no one stole your food.
You turned on the trappers?
Mm-hmm. The High Confessor started describing the life I could have at the nucleus with Atom. 3 meals a day. Not having to worry about getting eaten in my sleep. Radiation wasn't even that much worse. Plus, I had my brew to handle that.
Albert, one of the children, doesn't like Tectus, and makes a comment about how you could die if you just look at him the wrong way. She then becomes frightened to talk to you, likely because she's scared of what Tectus would do to her if he found out. You can convince her to leave the Children of Atom, which in my mind is great. One victim of a harmful cult saved.
Wandered too close to the wrong settlement. Lost to the family. Atom help you, you look at Tectus the wrong way.
You don't like Tectus, huh?
Who wouldn't? Man's a damn... I like Tectus just fine. But I think you should go.
Look, no matter what I do, you're not safe here. You need to leave, now.
Shit, you're right. Shit!
A runaway called Gwyneth leaves and starts to worship the concept of nothing instead of Atom, resigned to believe that the meaning of existence is nothing. Now that's a religion I can get behind. You can convince her to leave the island, which is another victim of the cult saved.
The truth of nothing? What does that mean?
If you are truly prepared to hear it, then I will tell you. The Children of Atom have been deceived by Martin, by Tectus. It's a false gospel, all of it. What they don't want you to know is that Atom is but a tiny mote in the vastness of nothing. Nothing is the true nature of existence. I have seen it with my own eyes. A void so vast and empty, like a night sky without stars.
Stay here. You're as good as dead. You need to leave this island and never come back.
There's wisdom in your words. If I cannot save the children of Adam from their blindness, perhaps I can spread the word elsewhere.
Devon is a drug addict who had a vision while high that made him go and join the children. Most likely a drug-related hallucination, and not a sign of some higher being trying to contact him, as he claims. You can talk him into stopping the fast, which turned out to not be a totally bad thing because it actually helped him kick his jet addiction. You can also tell him to leave and live as a free man, yet another person saved.
But freedom is not mine to give. You released yourself from your shackles. Now go! Live life as a free man!
I freed myself? You're right. Oh, thank you so much. Glory to Adam. I'm free. I can't believe it. His messenger.
The architecture you're seeing is data. My data. When I'm plugged into the chair, this is what I see.
I think you should give this video a like, purely because I had to endure this tedious puzzle sequence to get DiMa's memories. The memories reveal that DiMa has the key and the launch code that would blow up the nuclear bomb in the nucleus, granting the children division. He also has access to a kill switch that would turn off Far Harbor's defenses, leading to the town being overrun by fog and the dangerous creatures that dwell within it. In another memory, DiMa talks about Far Harbor spitting at and interrogating synths. I think it's fair to be upset at the spitting, for sure, but the interrogation, depending on how forceful they were, maybe less so. I guess, given the context that they were spitting at the synths, I can't imagine the interrogation was at all fair or nice. Synths are machines created by the Institute, who are known to murder and replace people, so you can sort of understand Far Harbor's distrust of them.
Things are not going well with Far Harbor. Several of my people have been assaulted, spat at, interrogated for no reason. This is getting out of control.
The way to win that trust, however, is to do what the player did. Earn it. The way DiMa goes about it, which we discover in another memory, was murdering and then replacing Captain Avery of Far Harbor with a synth. That is doing exactly what the people of Far Harbor are afraid of synths for.
But there's still a chance they can learn to trust us. We just need one of their own who's on our side. I can't let anyone know what I'm about to do. I'll need to set up the equipment far away from Acadia. It'll double as a place to bury the evidence.
He murdered her, and then mind-wiped a synth to inject Captain Avery's personality into them, essentially murdering that synth. Two people died here, the synth that was mind-wiped, and Avery. He then lies to the people of Far Harbor and the new Avery. This new Avery truly believes they are the real Captain Avery. DiMa is a murderer, a liar, and to be honest, not a good person. He did it to manipulate Far Harbor into sympathizing with his cause. He claims he did it to calm them and show them how a human should act. But my brother, this is not a good way of going about that.
Why did you do it?
I needed to calm Far Harbor. A moderate voice. An example of what humanity should be. How we could exist together as equals.
If you tell Alan about Avery before confronting DiMa, he will suggest confirming with Dr. Teddy Wright who the skull belongs to. The doctor confirms the skull is Avery's, which is good to know if nothing else. The doctor then tells you not to tell Alan because if you do, he will launch an attack on Acadia. This is not the right thing to do. DiMa did what he did alone. The rest of the synths in Acadia are innocent.
Listen, I ain't telling no one nothing. If a single word got out, whatever you do, don't tell Alan Lee. Otherwise, there'll be a whole lot of blood.
If you tell Avery she is a synth, she understandably gets very upset. She didn't know. However, she deals with it honestly in an incredibly admirable way. She takes it in stride and she decides to continue living as best she can. She wants you to keep that secret, and I think on this occasion, since Avery is the one asking, and the fact Alan would go berserk if he found out and probably murder her, it's a secret in this case you should keep. At least the specifics of who the synth is. Revealing that it is specifically Avery that is a synth will only end badly for her, and she's already been a victim of DiMA, so it would be unfair to make things even worse for her.
I have proof that DiMA killed the original Captain Avery. Here.
But that's my locket. It was lost in a fire. The skull. It can't be. Listen, I'm me. I remember everything. I can't be a synth. You're wrong.
Look, I know it's a lot to take in, but the evidence is conclusive. You need to accept it.
It's true, isn't it? It's true, isn't it? I'm a synth. Do you have any idea what it's like to learn everything you know, everything you believe is a lie?
What you're going through, I'm so sorry.
The only thing I can do now is live the way I believe is right. DiMA is a murderer and a liar, and he should pay. But if you share this with anyone here, especially Alan Lee, many innocent people will suffer. Far Harbor's on the edge, and this will just push everyone right over it. Confront DiMA. If you can make him pay, do so. But please, keep that evidence a secret.
You can actually ask Alan what he would do if she is a synth, and his response is telling.
If Avery's a synth, what will you do to her?
Do to it, you mean? Take a wild guess, Mainlander.
If you ask Tectus about the launch key, he will tell you that he would not want to use it to launch the nuke and bring about division. He says it's not the children's path. You can also give him the key if you wish. I don't know why you would do that unless you were role-playing as a child of Atom.
If you had the key, would you use it to launch the nuke? To bring about division?
A question I've asked many a time. To experience instant rebirth as incalculable new worlds. Well, there are few gifts greater. But this island, Adam's kingdom, we have been given stewardship of this place. To abandon it, it would be an affront to everything he has granted us. Such a grand division. It is not our family's path.
If you tell him about the code to disable Far Harbor's defenses, he shows his true colors and says that to restore the missing piece of Atom's kingdom is something that must be done. He then asks if you are willing to do it. He doesn't force you to do it. He allows you to walk away from the conversation if you say you want to think about it, but it's clear that's just for the sake of game design. He wants you to do it. He wants to destroy Far Harbor.
Wind turbine powering Far Harbor's condensers, DiMA built a kill switch into it. And I recovered the code to take it offline for good.
DiMA. I knew that machine was the key. Though I suppose this only further proves the sanctity of our goal. Even Far Harbor's so-called savior knew those beasts couldn't be trusted. So at long last, Adam has granted us, you, the chance to return what is rightfully ours. To restore the missing piece of Adam's kingdom once and for all. So tell me, are you prepared to do what must be done?
Confessor Martin's holotape, which we find later, also says that Tectus wants war.
I heard about the execution. I can't believe they killed your missionary, Martin. I'm sorry.
Brother Andrews, a good soul. The fault is mine. If I'd realized things had become so tense in Far Harbor, I would have never let him leave. They blame us for the fog overrunning the town, DiMA. And now, the children. It's Tectus. He won't listen. He wants to prepare for war.
You can convince him that you should grant all the children division, either through a difficult speech check or by completing side quests for the children. I've already explained in this video earlier that there are many victims in the children, and possibly people that just joined for somewhere to live and to put food on the table. This option is an easy out for Far Harbor, and it's a morally questionable choice.
Think on the omens, the deeds I've done for this family. Adam sent me here to aid you. And I'm telling you, the nuke is the true path to him.
He sent you. Yes, it all makes sense. The true path.
I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
The previous leader was conflicted about if he would use the key if they found it.
I believe I'll survive. But am I mistaken? Does your god not require you die in a nuclear blast? Is that not why you've taken up in the nucleus?
It's not a transaction, DiMA. Adam requires nothing of us. He has granted us a chance to become something greater. To divide our weak, mortal frames and bring life to millions of new worlds. We are simply accepting the opportunity his glow presents, whatever form it may take.
So if you found the launch key, you wouldn't use it?
That I don't know.
Are you afraid?
I'd be mad to say I wasn't, but we've made a home for ourselves here. Friends, a family.
A place you belong.
Exactly. The nucleus. It is a blessing of the truest order. It would be hard to leave such a gift, even if it is for another. But regardless, the key is lost. So, until Adam sees fit to return it, I dare say you're stuck with us.
I believe I'll survive.
When you confront DiMA about all of this, he admits he had Chase shadow you, which is an interesting insight into how untrusting he is. In this situation, however, I think it's understandable.
I hope you don't mind, but I had Chase shadow you. She saw you entering and leaving the nucleus.
If you pass a very difficult speech check, you can convince him to admit what he's done to Far Harbor. Fortunately, he doesn't single out Avery when admitting he killed someone, which is good for her and the town.
You said you wanted human and synth kind to be equal. Well, now you have to prove it. Tell them the truth. Trust that they'll do the right thing.
You're right. We can't be above any other living being. When something terrible is done, there have to be repercussions.
Interestingly, Nick Valentine loves it when you tell DiMA that Far Harbor deserves to know the truth, and he dislikes it if you are sympathetic towards DiMA. If you are neutral and decide to look at it practically, Nick comments on it, but he doesn't like or dislike. He neither approves or disapproves of you telling DiMA to make his case to Far Harbor. However, he loves it when you tell Alan to shut up after he tries to rally the townsfolk into burning down Acadia. He comments if you say DiMA is a murderer, sort of explaining that it's more complicated than simple murder, which I guess there is some truth to that. So Nick wants Far Harbor to know the truth, but he also understands there is some twisted logic behind DiMA's choices.
You're a fraud.
Maybe you're right. The compromises I've made, all without even knowing.
Yeah, it's called willful ignorance for a reason.
For all his talk, he's just a murderer.
Yes, I am.
It's not that simple, and you know it.
I wanted to...
Alan's reaction to this news is expected knowing his character, and to be honest, not completely unwarranted. He wants to kill DiMA, fair, but he also wants to burn down Acadia to prevent any more humans from being murdered and replaced. This is not okay, this is too extreme, and luckily if you've built up enough trust with the people of Far Harbor by doing side quests for them, or you pass a difficult speech check, you can convince them not to attack Acadia. The punishment for DiMA's crime is execution. This is harsh, but in this post-apocalyptic world, I would say it's probably fair.
My long walk is over.
What's this about?
People of Far Harbor, you know me. We have lived peacefully together for years. We have come to trust each other in our way, but I've betrayed that trust, and I've kept the truth from all of you. Early on, during Acadia's founding, I murdered one of your own. I replaced them with one of mine.
What? Who?
The identity of my agent must remain hidden. They are as much a victim in this as anyone. They will do you no further harm. I am the only one to blame.
Go on, DiMA.
I wanted to prove that humanity and synth could coexist, that we did not have to fear each other. But I went too far. I see that now. I only ask that you judge me and not what we've built together. Allow the peace between Acadia and Far Harbor to last beyond this.
Peace? You call murdering one of ours peace? I say we end this bastard, and then burn his whole goddamn Acadia to the ground!
Alan, enough. DiMA will pay for his crime, but not Acadia. This path you want leads to murder. Cold-blooded murder.
We leave them be, and we'll never know if they're killing and replacing us one by one. No. We kill every last one of them just to be sure. Who's with me?
Every time you open your damn mouth, Alan, the whole town suffers. Shut up.
What? I oughta...
I've been wanting to say that since we first met that guy.
Don't listen to the mainlander. My brother knows what we've got to do.
See the hull? That's thanks to the mainlander, a true friend of the harbor.
You going to listen to Alan's hate-mongering? You even remember who did the captain's dance?
Mainlander cleared my farm, avenged my family, more than the rest of you ever did for me.
What's Alan really ever done? Caused trouble. Remember who cleared the lumber mill. Remember who's given us a new chance to take back our island.
My uncle's safe and alive. The strangers always steered us right. What? The mainlander took away my home. Drug me here. Listen to Alan.
Enough. I'll back down.
Alan, the harbor's spoken. So this ends here, DiMA. Murder's a serious crime. There's only the one punishment for it. If you have any last words, now's the time.
I'm sorry.
Mitch. Every homestead, town, and people has a dark side. But if we're ever to know peace, we don't let the worst of us define us. So justice has been done. And I expect everyone to respect the peace between us and Acadia.
The issue with this ending is it leaves the conflict between Far Harbor and the Children of Atom unresolved. There is still war brewing between the two, and you have to take action against one of them to resolve the Cleansing the Land quest. You can only do this by blowing up the nucleus or turning off Far Harbor's defenses. If you don't do either of these things, without DiMA's plan, which we'll talk about in a second, there is no chance of peace between the two, so one of them has to be attacked. As I just said, there is only one way to ensure peace between all three factions. If you decide to listen to DiMA instead of sending him to Far Harbor, he will suggest keeping the secret from Far Harbor, and he has some further suggestions.
I have an idea. There's still a way we can bring peace. But the fact that I've replaced a human with a synth must remain hidden.
If you agree to keeping the secret, he will then suggest murdering yet another leader, this time the leader of the Children of Atom, High Confessor Tectus, and replace him with a synth that DiMA can manipulate.
Thank you. Maybe the guilt will keep me focused.
It didn't seem to stop him before.
As horrifying as it might be to suggest, this memory you've recovered has given us a new option. If Far Harbor could be made more tranquil by our intervention, then perhaps the same trick will work twice on the Children of Atom. We could replace High Confessor Tectus with someone willing to forgive Far Harbor and work towards reconciling.
DiMA suggests that this replacement will leverage fear to keep the children in line and serve the greater good. This is a major red flag.
I'll need you to leverage your access to the High Confessor and lure him to a secluded location. You should be able to find a spot in the Bay's old command center where you can deal with him discreetly and hide the remains. Once your work is done, return here and the replacement will move in and take command.
Are the children gonna stand down just because this replacement tells them to?
Dissent may arise, but the children have seen what happens to those who speak out. Our replacement will leverage that fear to serve the greater good.
Oh, come, Sergeant. You should be ashamed. Calling yourself a community that cares.
Oh, but we do care, Nicholas.
It's all about the greater good.
The greater good. How can this be for the greater good? The greater good. How can this be for the greater good? The greater good. Shut it!
There is a note you can find by Martin's holotape where he says he just left the island, so he could very well be alive, and he may well come back. There is another note that suggests he was losing faith, however, so he has probably just given up on Atom for good, and he most likely won't come back. Another holotape, Martin says that the people of Far Harbor should just leave because the island is so dangerous. This is wrong. Far Harbor is their home, and they have the right to stay and try and defend it if that's what they want to do. So even Martin was not good for Far Harbor because he wanted to try and convince them to leave, and then got really angry with DiMA when he told him no.
Andrews was beloved by many. It's brought out the worst in them. Fury, hate. It was tolerable when it was just Tectus. DiMA, something must be done.
Exile?
Exodus. I think it's time you and I convinced the citizens of Far Harbor to leave.
You can't be serious.
You know as well as I, they're not meant for this place. The fog grows thicker every year. How long before the condensers are finally overwhelmed? It's not banishment, DiMA. It's mercy.
I'm sorry, Martin, but no. They have as much right to be here as you do.
Right. This place is trying to kill them. And now my people are at my throat because of the mess you created by allowing them to stay. And if you can't recognize that, then I suppose there's no reason for you to be here. I think you should go.
Martin, please. This can be solved in other ways.
Get out!
Very well. We'll talk again when you come to your senses.
DiMA takes the holotape and then edits it to serve his goals. DiMA also needs to mind wipe a synth to create a replacement. I wasn't able to find out who the original synth is before they are turned into Tectus, which makes it really hard to judge the morality of this. When you ask him about it, this is all he has to say.
You really think you can get together a convincing replacement?
Yes. Helping synths recover what they've lost means we've had to become familiar with memory wipes and facial reconstruction. And I knew Tectus very well when I was still living in the submarine base. I'll use that as the basis for our replacement's new memories. You simply need to deal with the real Confessor Tectus while I prepare a volunteer.
It's really annoying that I can't press him for more information on who the original synth was. You can tell Tectus to leave so you don't have to kill him. However, that is another loose end that could ruin the whole plan. It's not an ideal solution. Also, DiMA still has to insert Tectus's personality into a synth, so you are still murdering a synth, whether or not you murder Tectus, or tell him to leave.
It's over, Tectus. DiMA sent me to kill you, and I will if I have to. But if you agree to leave for good, I'll let you live.
You're working for... You're not bluffing, are you? There is no place beyond his reach on this island, is there? Fine. The damned machine will have what it wishes.
I convinced him to leave the island and never return.
You did? Perhaps not an ideal resolution, but I suppose the end result is the same.
I'm starting to envy DiMA. This whole situation makes me wish I could erase my memories too.
This would probably be good for the children and Far Harbor because it might potentially create peace. However, you have to murder someone and then lie to the children, and there's the issue of potential loose ends if you don't kill Tectus, and the fact that Martin is potentially still alive. Also, this kind of makes you, the sole survivor, just as bad as DiMA, especially if you murder Tectus. It's a complicated issue, right? Because Tectus is a bad guy who probably deserves to be killed or expelled for the way he leads the Children of Atom and how extreme his beliefs are. I don't know if the same could have been said about the original Captain Avery. Maybe keeping Avery alive and not replacing her would have led to war between all three factions. Is what DiMA did then justified if he is saving more lives than he takes? What happens if Far Harbor or the children find out about this in the future? What happens when Synth Avery and Tectus don't age and people start asking questions? We know synths don't age like humans, so what is the plan for dealing with that? It seems to be a very short-term solution, and I don't know if it's going to last. What happens if Martin comes back, or if you keep Tectus alive? What's stopping either of them from just walking back to the nucleus and rallying the children for war against Acadia for what DiMA and the Sole Survivor has done in the future? Also, opinions on this new peace vision the synth Tectus proclaims to have seen are mixed within the children. Brother Khan, for instance, doesn't seem to agree with this new direction.
What has Far Harbor done to merit Adam's mercy? Plenty of arms, if you're thinking of taking care of matters yourself.
You could admit to Avery, if you do this, that the peace is built on lies, and she says, I bet that's the way most pieces are kept, which is bad grammar on her part, but she's probably not wrong.
Yeah, but the whole thing is built on lies.
Sad thing is, I bet that's the way most pieces are kept. But enough of that.
Choosing this ending also means DiMA never faces any consequences for murdering the original Avery and replacing her. Although, like I've said, you pretty much do the same thing if you go ahead with this plan. So if DiMA is to be executed, then the sole survivor should be as well. Only if you convince Tectus to leave instead of killing him could you hold some kind of moral superiority over DiMA. And also, Tectus is a really bad guy, so you could argue there is a legitimate reason for murdering him, right? All of this means there are two possible endings that could be considered good. Taking DiMA to Far Harbor to face justice, and then blowing up the Children of Atom to prevent that war from happening. This keeps the two most morally good factions, Far Harbor and Acadia, alive and at peace, also ending a potentially dangerous cult. This is made less extreme if you manage to free some of the Children of Atom and tell them to leave before you blow it up. The issue is that there is still collateral damage. people like Ware, who we've talked about, and I imagine there are other innocents living within the nucleus that don't share Tectus's extremist views. The other option is following DiMa's plan, replacing Tectus with a synth and continuing to lie to Far Harbor. This keeps all three factions alive and at peace. However, as I've said, this solution potentially involves murder and serious lies and manipulation. It's a flawed, short-term plan that could fall apart in the future. The other solution is very much a concrete one. There are no more lies, everything is now out in the open, and there is peace between two innocent factions that will most likely last. The issue is the collateral damage. Both options are deeply flawed, and it's up to you to decide the lesser evil. Of course, this is if we are aiming for the best outcome in terms of morality. If you are role-playing as a Child of Atom believer, someone who believes they are a synth, or just an evil masochist, any of the endings could be justified.
It's done. Far Harbor sleeps under the fog at last. Glory to Atom!
In conclusion, I love this expansion, and I had a lot of fun playing through it again for this video. Fallout 4 gets a lot of hate, some of it deserved, some not, but this DLC, in my opinion, is Fallout done right and done justice.
I have been declared Queen of Far Harbor. You may bow.
That's all, folks. Thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Thank you for listening to me rant about my special interest for however long this absolute juicer of a video ends up being. Cheers.
War. War never changes.